Well, good morning, everyone. It's certainly a pleasure today to have this conversation I've been looking forward to for a while with some real pros in our industry. And I think we're gonna jump into it and get to the conversations. I'm gonna throw it over to Anne. We're gonna introduce ourselves and then we'll get right into it. Morning, Anne.
Good morning. I'm been in local government for 27 or 28 years, the last 18 as a CAO. I grew up in Ontario and did most of my local government there, and have been in Alberta since 2018. I grew up in a small town in Northern Ontario with a father who was a CAO, and everybody used to come to him for all and sundry. What is the town doing, not doing? And so I said, I will never be a CAO. And yet here I am. So I'm really happy to be here, Kelly.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you as well. And Ralph Leriger, please regale us with a bit of your background if you could.
Okay, I will. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, Ralph Leriger. I'm the current mayor of the town of Westlock, which is my hometown, the town I was born in. I had a 36-year career with TransAlta Utilities, where I did, when I'm asked what I did for them, the answer is always whatever they felt like paying me for. At a time in Athabasca, my municipal experience, I was on a part of a term of council in Athabasca, but got transferred out before my term was finished. I did many years of local government relations for TransAlta out at the power plants and mines at Wobman with the neighboring communities there, and then moved home to Westlock in 2010. So I'm in my third term as the mayor, and I'm living in the house I was raised in my old hood, and I get to be the mayor. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, both of you. I actually learned something a little bit new about both of you in your intros, so um, really valuable for me today as well. And myself, Kelly Rudick, long time in the industry, over 30 years now. Most of it with Strathcona County. My last position there was director of corporate planning, and maybe recognized for some of the work we did with priority-based budgeting. So one of the first implementers north of the border, and we started getting some recognition for that. 2019, a combination of things in my life led me to try something new. I'd always loved the innovation curve and learning something new and being a little bit bolder and was getting somewhat complacent, I think, in my cozy position. So I thought I'd try try consulting for a while, and that was 2019 February. I gave myself a couple of years to see whether there was something of value for the sector, and here we are, 3.5 years later, and I think that it's been great. I'm absolutely loving it. Getting to meet great people along the way, including the two in the room, actually the four in the room with us today. They just love the relationships that I've been able to nurture with new people that I've met. So um, we'll carry on. We're going to be talking about a few of the attributes that I've talked to these folks about, or I've heard them talk about in their trials and tribulations as either an elected official or an administrator CAO. And so we've been brainstorming for a while for maybe the top three. Now there are others, but and they'll probably come up. But one of the ones that I've seen both of these folks demonstrate in a big way is humility. So, I'll ask maybe both of them to share their thoughts and maybe an experience that they've had in the area of humility. I
I'll
think.
I'll I'll let Ralph go first.
You let Ralph go first.
Yes.
You know, I think in leadership positions, humility is maybe the most important characteristic, I think, of any leader. You can't pretend to be the smartest one in every room. You'll never build consensus that way. So So I do what you see is what you get. I try very hard to demonstrate, humility and authenticity. Just be real. Just be real. If people see you trying as hard as you can and working as hard as you can at it, they rally up behind you pretty quickly. That's just been my experience, Kelly.
Yeah, I can say with confidence that um, I don't see a different version of Ralph show up. Um, when Ralph is in the room, Ralph is Ralph, and there's not any kind of air of I'm the mayor and puffing out your chest, so to speak. So, and I think it speaks volumes with your council colleagues as well as your larger team with your admin.
Well, and your community, the people that you're serving, they see that and they can see it from a mile away. You know.
Yeah.
That's so true, Ralph. We have work inside of this system that is local government. And I really think that's one of the biggest pieces we have to remember. With regards to humility, Kelly, it's a very humbling position because Ralph's absolutely right. You are part of a leadership group. You are not the one. And I have a couple of stories. One though, I really think about is I had one of my directors in a past municipality who was very passionate about a program that we were bringing forward to council. He was very upset because council decided not to go with it. And I said, sometimes the politicians are looking at it through the political lens, and for their reasons, with the information they have, they make these decisions. So we have to own it, and we have to go back and we have to deal with it. And he said, but I really thought this was a great idea. And I really wanted this to. I said, you know what? His office was in the basement. I said, you're going to have to go downstairs, kick your garbage can and get over it and move on. And he said, and I'm going to need more garbage cans. And then the other piece was I had a mayor in one of my past municipalities that ran his own company, and he was successful and he had been doing it for 29 years. But the problem is when he came in the mayor position, not in a council position. So he came in the top position. I mean, all are created equal, with the mayor being the first among equals, as the local government gurus say. But he wanted to run the organization. He was very much trying to be in the weeds, but he also didn't want to build consensus with council. And I explained that you are not the principal of this organization. Council does everything as a whole, and administrate. And I, as CAO, take your information, I implement it how I see fit in the best way I know how within the budget that you've given me. And that was a really hard lesson. As he got better in his role as mayor, unfortunately, which I've seen happen a few times, and Ralph will probably attest to this, his ego grew. And it was really hard to build consensus among council with that type of situation in the organization.
Yeah, you can't have that. I think back to a recent board meeting of while we're setting up a community foundation. We've got an initial board doing all the legwork up front, and we're really wrestling with a couple of the toughest decisions now. And one of the board members threw out, well, she said to me, would you live with this? And threw out a compromise. And I thought, well, hold it. It's not up to me what I'll live with. So what I said was, as long as we've examined all the data, I'll live with whatever this board decides. That's what I'll live with. And you could just feel the relief in the room. There's no constraints here. This is the collective. This is our decision together. And
I love the fact that both of you recognized that you can play a role outside of your space to help someone else be humble, right? Ralph's not just about, his council team. And you're not just about your admin team. You went out of the way to make sure that an incoming mayor, who probably would have obviously benefited from the experience that you've had. I just love that it's putting people in positions to succeed. Another one that comes up for sure is authenticity, and I'm going to share, Ralph, your authentic self that showed up even before this session started. So we were talking a little bit about the session before it started, and I know a lot about Ralph now since we've known each other a little bit. So I asked how things are going. You know, as you've been playing his ukulele a lot. And so Anne said, it'd be great if you could pull it out. And lo and behold, is sitting by his right knee, and he grabs it and he plays us a song. And for me, that was just a shining example of Ralph not being afraid to throw himself out there and be exactly who he is, which is this person who just loves life and loves sharing and is just a great example of someone being authentic. Do you guys have some examples in your past that maybe demonstrate this authenticity that we talk about a lot?
Oh, I was thinking about when I came here, there was a real um, mistrust between council and staff when I got here in 2018. And we talk a lot about tone at the top and leadership setting this tone, but we have to live it every day. So we have some challenging, situations. And I noticed when I got here that after a council meeting, the senior leadership team or some members would go into one's office and start, oh my goodness, do you see what they did there? Did you see what they did there? I went in, I shut the door, I said, that's not happening anymore. That's enough. Calling them out. And then you deeper go into it, Kelly and Ralph, and you see what is the problem here. Well, first of all, there was a great report from George Cuff, everybody who knows me knows how much I love George Cuff. But George did a report for the city of Lethbridge. We are the county, but the city. And it was very clear. And I love these patterns because I just love local government, but I love these patterns. They were having the same thing at the city of Lethbridge. The staff was trying to run the organization in spite of council, not with council. And I'm a firm believer that we're here to implement council's vision. We don't create the vision, we implement the vision. And sometimes it's easier in a smaller organization like us rather than the city. And I've said to former city managers, I feel sorry for you. I'm trying to turn a tugboat around and you're trying to turn a luxury liner around. It's a completely different analogy, right? But here, the staff was doing the same thing as the city. They were trying to run in spite of council. So first of all, what I had to do was set tone at the top, make sure that filtered all the way through the organization, remove toxicness, which includes people sometimes, unfortunately, but it did. And also talk to council about their side, because this is a relationship, right? But I also did, how do we present to council? So making sure that the staff who came and presented to council understood their role. And what is your role? It's to give council the best information, unbiased, unpolitical, so they can make these difficult decisions that they have to make.
Well, and Anne, that is truly you, because both of those situations, whether talking to your admin or talking to council, both could have went poorly, right? But you took it upon yourself because of your passion for providing the best advice and doing the right thing every time, and threw yourself out there. And one of the terms that comes up, I know in this space when we talked before, was another word, which is vulnerability, right? Ralph, how about you? Like, you've probably run into this a lot.
Oh yeah, I think back to my start here in the 2013 election. We weren't in great financial shape, but had a major project build go poorly, big wholesale change on council, and not a particularly great relationship between council and administration, and And there was some toxicity there. People didn't like each other. And boy, if Ralph Leriger isn't having any fun, why am I doing it? And so we started with strategic planning, Kelly, and said, let's get everybody pulling the same direction. We got to be a team here, and administration and council. And we included our senior team in our strategic planning. They have the expertise that we need, and in a small town, I think you can get away with a lot more than you in the larger centers, and that really started it. And that respectful wall that needs to exist between council and administration. When our current CAO was promoted from within and became that CAO, I did say to her, now make sure that if I'm crossing that line of governance, that we have the kind of relationship. I think Ad said it was about relationships, the kind of relationship where you call me out, say, hold it, Mr. Mayor, that's not your territory. And she smiled and said something I thought was quite brilliant. She said, the wall exists in Westlock just like it's supposed to. But the difference is we can see each other through our wall, and we can hear each other through our wall. And I thought, okay, that's brilliant. So you build that respectful relationship, and you just and be authentic, vulnerable, and as a leader, as an organization, how do you react to when things go poorly and someone makes a mistake or you've made a bad decision? Do you come unglued, or do you react appropriately?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the mistakes and vulnerability, because in our space right now, I keep hearing places say they want to be innovative and we have to be innovative. And I couldn't agree more. But sometimes it's hard for us to then say, accept those things that come with new things and innovation, which could be, a misstep here or there. And too often that is something that is an impediment to actually truly being innovative and creative, is learning from something that might, take you sideways here or there and moving on. And so I think that's a big part of the values that you guys have talked about. It's a breeding ground for innovation if you have these things in place.
One
Well,
thing,
it is, but for me, Kelly, I think that's the leader's role, is to kind of fall on the sword sometimes, right? If there's that's where you got to step to the front of the line and say, I'll own this one, and when you make a mistake.
that's so true, Ralph. And I think another thing too that we often see in local government is if a new council comes in, or a new CAO or city manager, there's this blame game that happens all the time. Oh, they did this or they did that. And I always tell council and staff and the stakeholders, we have to assume positive intent, that these people on council, on administration, had the best intentions and made the best decisions at that point in their history with the information that they had. Let's say that this is where we are now, and let's move forward, right? That's how I feel about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, start from a place of good intent. I love that. I'm gonna hang on to that one. It's an anism for today. Good segue, both of you, into the last one we're going to talk about, and that is courage. And I'm hearing it, like I said, there's probably going to be some crossover in the stories that you've shared already. But the both of you are kind of you're on the highest part of the ladder for me in your roles, demonstrating courage, and I'm sure that others could benefit from some wisdom in this area. So is there anything that comes to mind in your careers around the word courage?
And do you want to go?
Sure. Courage is this is my word. So I have this little stone here that says courage, because I always think about being a CAO, you really do have to be brave. So when I came here, I always question this. Is it a chicken or an egg situation? So I say that this is my best council ever, but is it because I've changed my expectations and been more open and honest? Or just because this is my fourth municipality and I'm more seasoned? I don't really know what it is. But when I came here for the interview, And we always want to put our best foot forward, obviously, with the interview, but the CAO role is such a weird fit. We're not like running a company where our only goal is to make money. We have public, we have stakeholders, we have council, we have staff. It's a very integrated, the community, everything is, it's a very strange job, which I talk all about. It's all about balance. But when hiring a CAO, the most important thing ever is the fit with council at that point in their history. So I went in there and I was very brutally honest. They said they wanted change. I said, is that really what you want? Because I'm proactive and this is what I'm going to do. I said, if that's not what you want to do, don't hire me. Continue doing what you're doing. But if you do want change and you want proactive and you want it to happen quickly, I'm the person that you need. So I think we have to be vulnerable and put ourselves out there and not try to hide behind, this is what I am. I'm telling you what you want to hear, actually being your true self, because otherwise the fit is never meshes and it doesn't work.
Awesome.
Bravo. Yeah. How about yourself, Ralph?
Well, I mean, courage is an interesting word. And it comes in many forms, right? My first part of my career with TransAlta, I was a power lineman, so I was climbing poles in lightning storms and doing that. There was that kind of courage, and then as you age and have hearing aids and a hip replacement and all those things, your courage changes. But I think back to our last election. We had three new councillors. And I'm glad to hear you've got the best council ever. So do I. This is my best council ever, and I say that about each successive one. But during the campaign time, you can have people that want to see change, and maybe they're not very happy with what they think they see you doing. And I had that situation. So when it came time to committee appointments and stuff just before our first org meeting, I sat down with one of my new councillors and just simply said, I suspect that you think we think quite a bit differently. Yes, I think we do. I said, well, I'm not so sure about that. I said, what if we change the conversation about how we do things into what things we value? And we had a big discussion about what things we value in the community: economic prosperity, looking after society's most vulnerable, opportunities for seniors and children, and had a really good value discussion, and then moved it to okay, then we value the same things. We're the same. So how you achieve those things isn't up to me, and it's not up to you. It's up to the collective us. And we'll likely try on 2 or 3 strategies for size and fit. And if they don't work, we'll try something else. And man, this is our new councillors are bright. We've expanded our diversity in gender, in age, in social circles, and just knowing that we value the same thing, we're streaming ahead really well.
Yeah, I love your counsel as well. The diversity is something that comes through very clearly. Um, you guys have delivered. This is exactly what I thought it would be, and I have no doubt when we share this broadly that it'll bring value to. I suspected newcomers to our space, but I'm sure there is a lot in here for well-established folks in the space as well. And so at this point, I was going to open it up if those on the line with us had anything they wanted to share, given what they've heard. If there's anything they're curious about, given what they've heard from us, or if there's a number one issue right now that you think is out there in our space, or do you have something you want to share that you've experienced recently that provides you hope for our sector? Because sometimes I think, and I've been guilty of this lately, especially on the social media a little bit. Um, I think it's a challenging time for a lot of different reasons in our space, and it's not just the constraints that we typically think about with resources and dollars, but it's, I think, this polarization right now of you're either right or wrong, or you're with us or against us, and I think it's never been more clear or demonstrated than it is right now. And I'm sure things will improve. But Dave or Kevin, anything? If not, I'll maybe ask the same question of Ralph and Ann, kind of put them on the spot.
Oh, Kelly, I would just say that the last section in particular, I found particularly germane to the world as I see it now. And having been municipal staff for a provincial staffer and now a consultant, it seems to me that there's what Ralph and Ann were talking about is trying to find that balance or tension between the staff function and the elected function. And I see a lot of municipalities, whether I've gone into them as the unpaid consultant on behalf of the provincial government, or as my role as a staffer many years ago in Ralph's jurisdiction, or in my work as a consultant. If I walk in and council agrees with everything that I do, I have to think that either I'm brilliant, which is never the case,
Hmm.
and I try and make sure that my ego is aware of that every time it happens. But I also suspect that I either haven't explained it well and council completely confused, or I haven't pushed far enough in what I'm trying to get for change. And there's lots of people who would say, oh, well, you know, council's always, and if it's always happening, then there's a concern. But if anytime that a staffer brings forward a proposal and council, after discussion and debate, turns it down, I agree with Ann. I mean, you have to take that, your ego. You're bringing your professional opinion forward based on the facts and the issues at hand. The council does get to make that political, in essence, leadership slash high level managerial decision that says, yeah, that may be the perfect logical everything else, but it doesn't fit where this community, this council sees this community going at this time. And if you take umbrage to that, you're going to be very disappointed in serving as staff in a political environment. By the same token, if they agree with everything that you do, you're probably drank too much Kool-Aid at some point in time, and you're not adding the value that you could to the relationship that you have with council. That would be my thoughts for now.
That's so great, Kevin. And you know what? One thing I would add to that too is there's also the unfortunate situation where some people presenting to council are trying too hard to please council, like you said, saying yes all the time. So I've always cautioned my directors to be, you are there as the planner, the financial person, the infrastructure director, and you need to put aside your opinion. But how they decide on that is up to them. But we still have to be brave enough or, comfortable enough in our role, in our area of expertise to put forward what we think is the best path.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, Kevin. And I was looking for an opportunity to expand, but I think everybody wins if administration each and every time without fail provides its best advice. That's what you're there for. And whether or not council agrees, my guess is they're going to look at you as the subject matter expert, and 85% of the time, maybe 90, they will say, absolutely, this is well thought out. There's data to support this decision. It moves the community forward, and raise their hands in support. But when that doesn't happen, as has been clearly stated today, you have to respect that the council is in that position to make that decision, and respect that there's something else going on outside of maybe the best advice. That because we don't, as much as we think we know their world, we don't really know it as well as they do. So great advice today on knowing that role clarity and respecting, that that exists. And if we do that, we're back to George Cuff, right? Role clarity. If he said there's two words, right? Role clarity is what his sessions are about. So,
Yeah.
um, I
You
wanted
know,
to be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ralph.
Kelly, I think that besides clarity, I think that it's really important that you be not just respectful of each other's role, but respectful of the value that each other's role has in the process as municipalities, as problem solvers. And, very often we'll take the same issue, administration and elected, and say, okay, you stay out of my lane, I'll stay out of yours. You do this, I'll do this, and I'll meet you in the middle. And then you're working together. Just really be respectful of the value that each decide brings to the table.
You got a
That's
big thumbs up from Kevin when you said that as well.
And that's so true, Ralph, too. And that whole gray area that nobody ever talks about in the middle. And in my last bit of research I did was how do we enhance the trust and respect between CAO and municipal council? Well, that gray area is really an important piece. And like Ralph said, we should never get rid of a good idea. It doesn't matter where it comes from, because we are a leadership team. And it's not as simple as, yes, we need to respect role clarity, but it's not always as simple as that. There is a gray area in the middle that we have to, we will wander in and out of each, but we have to respect that.
So thanks so much, everybody. I always learn something chatting with you guys, and thanks to participants today as well. Um, This has been great. I had targeted kind of a time for us to come to conclusion, and that's now. That being said, we're going to make sure that this is shared as broadly as possible. So watch for a link out there to be shared. And I always am grateful for you guys stepping up and sharing your wisdom broadly, because I think it's so important if we have that wisdom that we pass it on and have others benefit from it. So very grateful for your past experience, and as well as your ability to share with those up and coming in our sector. And thanks so much.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for the opportunity, Kelly. And Anne, I enjoyed it a great deal.
Thank you. It's been marvelous. I love local government.